Nicole. Appreciate that. We're recording. We're official yet, so I'm gonna go back about 13 minutes and start from the beginning. If you would please, no, I'm just joking. I'm not gonna do that, but we'll have enough so that you can watch this when you go back to your or whenever you want to at your own leisure. So Google Forms, this. I want to start by saying that Google Forms act a lot differently than other documents in the Google Doc and application world. It works a little bit differently because there are so many what we call views, so many ways to view a form. Now, what you're seeing right here is the participant view. So when our system automatically sent you an email with a link to this form, this is what you as a participant were seeing on your phone or on your tablet or on your laptop. You were seeing this form. But what I was seeing when I created the form was the actual editing and collaboration view. So this is the background of what composes the actual participant form. So I'll just go back and forth between the two. This cannot be edited by anyone, this final participant form or view. However, my view as the creator is something that I can edit on the fly or make changes to whenever I want. So here is where I could move things around. I can add. So this is the editing and collaboration view. We also had the participant view, which is the form you took. And a third view is to actually look at the responses. And 194 individuals completed this form. So it was collecting data from 194 individuals. So I can look through a summary of all the results. So who has responded, names. It gives me an automatic chart, which I love this. Let me see if I can zoom into this right here. For the how many years of experience do we have as educators? Notice that this graph is skewed a little bit to the left side. Obviously, we have a lot of teachers within their first 16 years or so, a lot of them from the first 8 years of experience here. So we're kind of all over the place with some significant peaks at 20 years and 15 years, just of noting out. Now, I didn't have to create this chart or this graph here. It was auto-generated every time one of you took the form and hit the submit button. It was automatically compiling data here. As far as this question about what subjects do you teach or will you be teaching next year, the majority, if you see right here, ELA, math, science, and social studies. If you look at that distribution, of course, some of you are teaching multiple, so we may have some ELA science. We may have some math and ELA teachers here. I remember doing it all whenever I taught elementary school. And then some of you guys were able to freeform, put an answer in there, and I'm able to see that as well. Again, I didn't have to do anything here. This was auto-generated by you all submitting. And looks like a lot of us, as far as what grade levels we're going to be teaching, a lot of us come from the secondary realm, but fairly good distribution all around the K-12 spectrum. When we took the which district are you coming from, I can highlight over here, Putnam has the lion's share of 30% of those who responded, of the 194 came from Putnam County. And then I can highlight 15, almost 16% came from Flagler, and Columbia has a big share here. again, this helps me as the form creator to understand my audience and think through what some of their needs are. Same thing in the classroom. When it comes to your schools, you can see were separate items. You didn't even know that there were separate items. I'll show you that for each one of your schools. And then this is how the attendance shook out. So that is 3 views that we've looked at. We've looked at the creator view, the participant view, the response view, but there's a 4th way to view data from a form, and that's via looking at a spreadsheet. That's the 4th way that we're going to look at it. Now, I've already created a spreadsheet, and if you don't know, I'm going to show you this again later as we create a form and we create a quiz. But I can look at this summary overview here. This is very helpful. I could look at, if I click on individual, I could find an individual person here. So let's find Suzanne's answers. And as I scroll through, I'm looking at how Suzanne, that one person out of 194 respondents, what she put as far as her answers from the form. And I did that by clicking individual and then by selecting her email from the drop-down menu here. I could print her responses if needs be, but don't print because you can save a tree. Everything is going to be housed in your Google Drive. And also notice this form is live. It's still live. We still had people registering. If I wanted to turn my form off, all I have to do is check that box and the form is now not collecting any type of responses. So if you were to take that link to the form and try and take it right now, you wouldn't be allowed to. But I'm going to turn that back on just in case someone is actually going to take that form. So the 4th view, I will click this little green icon. That's the icon for the Google Sheets application within the whole Google G Suite of applications and products. I can click that and it's going to lay out all of your data on a spreadsheet. Now, this is the stuff that gets me excited. I always joke that I love living life off of a spreadsheet because I was toilet trained at gunpoint. But I absolutely love this. I love that I can take that data and I didn't have to do anything here. Again, Google is taking all of the legwork for me. All I had to do was click on that little green icon one time and it brought all the data over from the form. Not only did it bring all of the data over, it's considered a live spreadsheet. So if someone were to take the form right now as I'm talking, their data would be added here to the bottom in real time. Now, if I turned off my form, it's not going to collect any new data, but it's amazing to watch people take the form because it just auto-magically puts all of their data on this spreadsheet for you. And with that, I was able to do things like create a district breakdown of all the people who are in this summer tech things. I was able to break it down by each individual session. This is how we email you all the session links. So if I sound excited, it's just because I love the automaticity of Google putting all this information on the spreadsheet without me having to do a single thing.
Hey, Adam, there's a question about getting to the spreadsheet. So I think it might help to show where that's at on the response tab again.
Thank you.
You may want to do it from a form that you haven't created a spreadsheet from as well, because I do know there is one additional menu to kind of choose from if you've never connected it to a spreadsheet.
That's a good, Let's see if I can find one that hasn't been put. on a spreadsheet because I put so many on a spreadsheet. Let's see. So to get back there, if you are in your editing view, across the top, you have, they don't really look like they're links, but they are kind of menu options here. It's going to default to the questions because this is where you're going to build the questions out for your forms. But then to the right side, there is a little link to the responses. So you would click on responses. And if you want to go to a spreadsheet, you click this little green Google Sheets icon. Okay, and here's exactly what Jake was talking about. The first time you click it, it's going to say, do you want to create a new spreadsheet for this form, or do you want all the replies to go to an already existing form? Now, for 75, 80% of us, we're always going to create a new form just to keep it clean. But for some advanced people, you may create a form for each period. And you may want all of those different responses to feed back into one spreadsheet versus 6 or 7 different spreadsheets for all your periods. But that's again is kind of an advanced thing. But this is what Jake wanted me to show you. The first time you do this, it's going to say, do you want to create a new one? And it's going to name it exactly the way your form is named by default, except at the end, it's going to add responses. So one document, which is the form, is going to be the form itself, and the spreadsheet's going to say responses at the end of it. So we're going to say create, and then Google is going to create this spreadsheet based on those responses automatically, as I like to say. Are there any other questions about that? I kind of like leaving responses in there, and I'll show you why. If you're in your drive and you want to search for your spreadsheets, for example, that may have some student responses, you can just quickly type in responses in parentheses like that, and it's going to bring up all of the form spreadsheets where all the resulting answers lie. You can even use your little filter search option up here and select spreadsheet, and it'll even help narrow that search result down even further. So you know you're only getting spreadsheets, you know you're only getting those that say responses in it. So these are our form response spreadsheets. And hopefully I'm not putting the cart before the horse when it comes to all this. Let's actually slow down and create a new one. So from forms.google.com, I'm not going to use a template yet. I'm just going to create a blank form. And so here is a blank form. This is the way it always defaults. Notice if you were in the docs training this morning where we have the whole drop-down menus and that whole ribbon of commands and fonts and stuff, that's all gone here. It's a simplified, clean layout. So a couple things, as always, you're going to want to title this. So we could call this just Playing Around 101. And if I hit enter, it doesn't, as Docs did earlier, name this for you unless you click in it, okay? So notice whatever I titled this here, if I just click in the title for the actual form itself, it's going to autofill that in there. And again, you can change this at any time we'll call this serious form because we're going to do some serious work with it today. Again, if you star it, it is actually going to go to your starred folder in your Google Drive so you can find it quickly. It's just a way to bookmark it within your drive. And if you click this little folder icon, you can actually move it to a specific folder within your Google Drive. So I'm going to put it in this Google Docs training folder. And it's telling me that your document has been moved from your drive to this specific folder. And I'm good with that. That's exactly what I wanted it to do. It's always good to be disciplined whenever you're creating something so that you know where it is. It's always in a safe spot, and you can get back to it quickly if you need to. So I've just titled this Playing Around 101. I can give a description. We are learning about this and we'll have some serious fun with Google Forms. Okay. Folks will be able to see that description. So if students are taking a form asynchronously where you're not in the room with them to answer questions, you may want to be as detailed as possible in your description as far as expectations and the like, so that there are no questions going forward about the purpose of the form, how to take the form, expectations, those things. So it's always good to add a descriptor. And if you guys remember from earlier, I was sharing that I have the Grammarly extension add-on for Google Chrome. See if it catches that. It may not. I was hoping it was going to catch my grammar. I wonder if it will if I put it in the title. Yeah. Notice Grammarly is going crazy. It's going red right now. I wonder why it doesn't do it in the description, but it does do it in the title. And it's going to give me some suggestions here of how to fix that. Thank you, Grammarly. Helping me with my double negatives and bad grammar overall. So I want you to pay attention to this blue color that is at the side of this little framed box right here. Wherever you see that blue, that's going to show you that you're actively editing that section at any one given time. So my first question, I may want to say, what is your name? Always a good way. I may want to say, what's your email address if I'm collecting data and I want to be able to respond to people. That's cool. So I've got some options here, because if I say, what is your name? Now, some of you who are at the district level, at the consortium level, or an admin, you may want your data to come in a certain format, because I could, in a sense, answer this Adam Azula, Azula, comma, Adam. I could just put Adam. This brings us into our first little mini conversation about data validation. What does data validation means? It means that when you want to collect data, you want it to be in a valid format, something that you can use, something that doesn't make you go back and fix a lot of mistakes. So I'm going to show you the first of the hidden little hamburger menu down here. So in this frame for this question, if I go and click on this little hamburger menu, I get two things that I can add to this item. I can add a description, and I can also add response validation. So I'm going to add a description. In the description, I'm going to say full name, and I'm going to put maybe an example of Azula Adam. Maybe I'll say full name, last name, first name. Okay, because I want to get it back in a form that I can use and do something with. Now, the second thing under this hamburger menu said response validation. So I'm going to click on that. This is my favorite enhancement over the last 5 or 6 years of using Google Forms. This is without a doubt my favorite enhancement that they've made, because I can say that I won't accept an answer unless it's in a valid format. So by default, it's saying, wait, do you want a number? I don't want a number. So I'm going to click that and I'm going to click text. And I want the text to contain a comma. So if I click and put a comma in there, I have just set up some parameters so that no one can put numbers in here. No one can put any other special characters really, and they have to have a comma because I've asked for it in a specific format. Custom error text means if someone makes an error, what pops up on their screen to help them answer this. So I'll put, please look at the description. All right, and I'm going to make this a required question on this form that I'm making. So there's no way to skip over it. You can't submit it until this question has been answered. But right now I'm in one of my 4 views. I'm in the creator / editing view for the Google form. But it's always good to go test and look when you create new items, what is the participant going to see on their side? And so Google includes the little eyeball preview icon up here in the top right-hand corner of Google Forms. And this is going to allow you to not only see what it looks like on the participant's end, but actually answer the form to make sure it behaves the way you want it to behave. So I'm going to click the little preview, and it's showing me this is what it looks like on the participant end. So let's try and answer this. So we'll say Bob Smith. All right, let's see what happens when I hit submit. That little custom error response pops up. Remember, I typed that. Please look at the description. Oh, the description says full name, last name, first name, and it gives an example. So let's do this. Let's say Azula Adam. Okay, good. I'm going to hit submit. It's not going to take it. Why is it not going to take it? You know the answer, because there's not a comma in here, because I have set parameters for response validation that say it's got to have a comma in it. So now when I hit submit, it's actually going to take it, and I've actually submitted that just via the preview. So I'm going to go back over here to the creator view. Notice now my responses say 1 because I've actually taken the form. I've actually submitted a form in my own practice. And there's nothing wrong with practicing. You got to know how it's going to work. This really is especially important for math instructors who may be wanting certain responses as far as numbers go. You can set some parameters about what type of response should I get back from students. So we have this question set up the way that we want it. I have some options now. I could duplicate this question, which is great if you have a lot of items that are the same type of item. You could simply click that to actually just watch what happens. If I click duplicate, Notice it's in blue over here. This is my active frame. It's duplicated everything, including the response validation, including the custom error text that's going to appear if someone gets it wrong. So I could say, what is your email address? And there's another setting for this. And I could say, use your school email address. And it is going to be a short answer text, but this time I'm going to say it's got to include @nefec.org. That's my data validation for this. That means no one's going to be able to give me a Gmail. No one's going to be able to put my.putnamschools.org, nothing like that. And I can leave, please look at the description here. And if I want to preview what that looks like, let's say I know how to do this one now. And let's say I'm going to use my personal and try and submit. It's still not going to let me. And it's going to say, please look at the description. Oh, I got to use my school. And now the little error moves away and I can actually submit this and know that everything works. So
Adam, Tracy wanted to know, do you get a lot of inquiries as far as why submissions don't go through because people don't read the descriptions? So do you have that filtered through?
No, I've never actually had that issue. I'd like to say that it's pretty self-explanatory in a lot of regards, that it's at least it comes up all in red, so it really stands out. And plus they don't get that final, so like, thanks, you've submitted this form, we appreciate it kind of look. But no, that's never in the past 5 or 6 years of using that ever been an issue. Because I want that data validation. And I think Jake gave us a tip in the chat too about no.
Well, and there are some great thoughts in the chat as far as using it with multiple class periods. I think Edward said that he always requires a name and a class period. And somebody said, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. And he also had a question about adding a way to filter your spreadsheet at this point. And Belinda said it was a great tool to use when documenting behaviors for IEPs. So some great ideas in chat as we've been going through.
Yeah, thank you. I'm reading through all the chat.
Okay. Yeah, they were busy.
I probably look like I have a bunch of L's on my forehead right now. Belinda, yeah, that's great. Belinda said, this is also a great tool to use when documenting behaviors for IEPs. It's the spreadsheet's wonderful to take to meetings. I'm going to show you how nerdy I am with this. Let's go.
Belinda, someone asked if you wouldn't mind sharing. And if you don't mind sharing, you can just put the link to that right in the chat box, and then people could click on it and have access.
So I'm going to share with you something that is probably going to frighten some of you, and don't tell my wife about this either. Let's make a promise. But there was 2 years ago when I was really wondering how I was dividing my time among projects, personal time, as well as work time, how much work I was bringing home, doing on the weekends. So I created this daily reflection tool for myself. And this makes me think of an IEP or maybe even an intervention form that you could make as a teacher. So I created this, and I'm going to show you the actual participant view. I put, the date, anything special about today, how do I feel about today, and then I could organize my time spent on certain things. So maybe it was collaborative planning, and I could put, we were working on reading plans, and then choose how much time I had spent doing that. And then at the bottom, I had, do you need another section? Now, some days I did more than others. What I wanted to do is create those charts and graphs for myself so I could be more effective. But what was great is that I could make a shortcut to this form on my phone. So I didn't have to ever have my laptop or my desktop. I could do this from my phone. And so Belinda brings up a great point. When you're monitoring student behavior, some of you who are ESE specialists and coordinators, can you create a Google form for data collection and just use a device like your phone or tablet? So while you are working with students, maybe it's an intervention or something like that, you're actually creating specific data points. So you could type in a student's name, say we did this as part of our phonics intervention today. We spent 45 minutes in small group, and hit submit. And then you're going to have this robust spreadsheet over time that's going to show you distributions of times, students, how many times students were involved in interventions, things like that. That would be one great use for that tool. So very, very good stuff already.
There are some good thoughts about how to utilize it as a school counselor for a parent request form, and that could be done without having to leave the classroom. So awesome way to share, both Susanna and Lisa. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to get too deep, but there's an add-on for forms. It's an extension where, let's say you were going to use it to set up parent or caregiver meetings. You create a list of times that are available, and then if someone selects it on a form, that option gets deleted out. So let's say you have Monday through Friday, I'm available from 3 to 5. And as parents start selecting their times, like let's say Suzanne says, oh, I want to go Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Well, once she selects it and submits it, Tuesday at 3 o'clock is gone from the choices from other parents. So there's no way to double book any time. And I've even seen this with use in a classroom library where students could check out books from the library via the teacher's machine. There was a form, and when they checked out a book, it wasn't available from the drop-down menu anymore for them to check out. But that is a little advanced tool use there. So this is just basic. We're just getting basic demographics with our questions right now. But if we wanted to, we could start building out some more deeper questions on this form. Now, I haven't gone over the managing your control. This is, in a sense, this little table here on the right side. This is your control panel. This is the ribbon that appears at the top of Google Docs. This is kind of all you get, but this is, again, very powerful. So you could add a question from here. This is new as of this year. You can import questions from old forms that you've created. I love this. I think about those of you who are going to use this for assessment in the classroom. If you had created a form last year and you don't want to reinvent the wheel, but you want to borrow a little from here and a little from here, you could hit the import question button, choose an old form, and bring that question over. So if I select my daily reflection tool, it's going to show me, oh, these were all the questions on that form. Which one do you want to bring over? So I may want to bring over this, and I may want to bring over this. And if I hit the import button, those questions automatically populate in my new form here. So that's one feature that I'm loving, because you don't want to reinvent the wheel every time, especially if you just want to pick and choose from other forms that you've used in the past. Now I could add a title and description if I want to break up sections on my form, there's other ways to do that as well. I could add images onto my form, which is really cool. It kind of works the same way that importing an image and any of the other Google products works. I can upload it from a computer. I could use my webcam. If I have the URL to a picture, I could enter it, or I could just do a Google image search. We were talking about the Renaissance earlier today. So if I type Renaissance here, I could quickly embed an image into my form. Oh, it's too large. Dang. Let's see. Do we have a smaller one? Maybe this one. There we go. So it just added this image. For those of you who want to include stimulus next to a question, you could do it this way. So if you screenshotted a graph or a chart, or if you had an excerpt from a piece of text, you could include this here, just like on any other standardized assessment where there's a piece of stimulus above some questions. You can do the same thing via importing pictures in here as well. So maybe I want to ask students some specific questions about this image, such as, you know, what are the 3 cities in Italy that are represented here in this image? That may not be a standards aligned question. I know, don't shoot the messenger, but it is using this as stimulus, and I could add questions underneath that relate to it. Or I could use the YouTube button or the video button. It looks exactly like the YouTube icon, and actually embed videos into my forms. So if you wanted students on their Chromebooks or at home to use a video as a stimulus to whatever questions you're asking, you could embed a video there as well. All you have to do is click it. So let's say Renaissance. I'll look up any YouTube video. And again, this does the safe search when you do it through the platform like this. So if I want this video, all I have to do is select it, hit the select button, and where is it? Here we go. Now this video is embedded into our form. I guess we're going to build a form around the Renaissance. So what does that look like from a student's point of view? Because we are looking at this through the editing and creation view. But if I click my little preview icon here, this is how it would appear to a student. So they would simply click the video, it would automatically play. There's no way to go full screen because you don't want them leaving the environment of your Google form, but they could mute it and fast forward or rewind through a video. So if you wanted to use a video as a stimulus, you most certainly can do that through this environment as well. Watch the video below. Okay, just give a little command there to that. So let's change. I'm gonna get rid of these. If you ever want to delete something, you click on the frame itself. Click anywhere in here. Notice there's no delete in this bottom one, but if I click it, I can simply quickly just delete that out. So I'm going to add an item, and I'm going to ask a question: who painted the following portrait? Spell portrait right. Now, I want to include a stimuli in here. So over to the right of my question, there is a little icon to insert an image. So I'm going to insert an image that's going to be part of the question itself. Again, I don't want to leave my math folks out. An image could be a graph, a chart, a screenshot of something that you've taken. We looked at that math add-on for Google Docs where you can draw your own formulas and embed them as images into documents. But I'm going to do a Google image search for the Mona Lisa, and I'm going to include her. Oh, that's nice. She's got face masks on now. I knew that she was empathetic via her stare. So who painted the following portrait? Students would see the portrait, and then I have this set as a multiple choice item. So that means I need to include one correct answer and a few distractors, and good distractors, not distractors that are like Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, you know, things that don't belong in context to this question. A good distractor always has a little grain of truth to it, but it's not the correct response. It's always going to catch any slip up in thinking or cognition. I could just make this a short answer where students have to type Leonardo da Vinci into this bottom box here, and then I'm done. I can move on from this item, or I want to go back to multiple choice. Now, there's no need to make it a checkbox because there's not multiple painters who painted this. Although if you want to give the argument that Da Vinci was running a school and many people did paint this, I will listen to you. So let's say Leonardo, I got to think of how to spell the Ninja Turtles. Da Vinci. And if I want to add other distractors here, I could add Michelangelo. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Look at me. Donatello. I just said don't make the distractors ridiculous, and I'm going to name all the Ninja Turtles. I guess I should take out no one would know him by Da Vinci. Oh no, I lost everything. Da Vinci, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo. Now, taking this idea of embedding stimuli into each item, I could do a little bit more with this form. I could actually add images for each one of the possible responses that are a part of this question as well. So for some students, this may be a great scaffolding point. It may be that you don't want to include text, but images alone. It just depends on what your purpose and subject and your student audience is. So I could click that little image icon and search for Da Vinci. Let's see if we find a good portrait for him. Yeah, we'll do this. It may say that it's too large. There we go. I could do the same thing for Raphael. Let's see if it gives me a turtle. Oh no, there he is. Okay. Certainly Donatello. No one's gonna think that's not gonna be a Ninja Turtle picture that comes up. No, it is. Here he is. That's how I remember him from humanities class. And last but not least, our pizza-loving, cowabunga dude, Michelangelo. Let's see. That works. So now, not only is there one large stimulus attributed to this item, but there are in fact stimuli for each of the responses here as well. And if I click the little eyeball icon, I can go preview and see this is what this item. Now I know it's really, really large, and I wish I could, let's see, scale this down a bit for you. So you could see that there's a question, there's a portrait, and then each one of these great Renaissance artists has an image that corresponds with each one of the possible answer choices there. So very cool that you can embed images. Whoops. I lost everything. Hold on. Mouse issues. Very cool that you can actually add those images for each possible answer choice there as well. I think a lot of applications in science, a lot of applications in social studies, and any outside of the box thinking. Again, we're moving away from using this as data collection to think more kind of classroom assessment focused with this, but we could end up making this a required question. Don't forget, if you want it to be required, you've got to turn it on and make sure that it is a required question here that's part of this. So I want to go back up here since we are getting into the realm of, we're going to call this the Renaissance quiz. That way we've got it themed out. I could go up here. There are some controls in the upper right-hand corner of all Google Forms. We've already talked about the eyeball showing you what it looks like from a participant view, but there's also the palette here to customize the way this guy looks. So I could choose a new theme. I'm trying to show you what this all looks like on one screen. So I click the little color palette. I'm sure there's a better name for that. Maybe that's not the right name. And I could choose a new theme color. Maybe I want it to be red. Maybe I want the background color to be white. Maybe I want the font to be more formal. Now it's starting to look like the Renaissance a little bit. And then I could choose a header image. So with the header image, there are some preloaded themes and images that are here. Some of these move like GIFs or GIFs, whatever your flavor is. I like, let's see if there's a good one here. We've got one that's got these paint brushes. So if I click that and hit insert, you'll see that now at the top of this form, I got my header there. And if I click the little eyeball icon, now we're seeing this theme kind of take precedent over this form. Now it's starting to really have the feel of a social studies class or an art appreciation or humanities course. And that's great. It's starting to really come together for us here. Now I don't have to keep that. If I want to change it, I can come back to the header and totally delete it out and choose a new image. If I want to upload something from my machine or go to my Google Photos account, I could do that as well. But you don't want to see pictures of cats because that's all I have are the cats who live around my house in my photo album. But I'm going to keep this theme of the paintbrushes because I like the way that looks. So that is your little color palette here. We've looked at the preview, and then there is the all-important settings button. But before I get there, I want to talk about sharing a form because I've seen it operates different than sharing other documents that are Google applications in this whole Google realm here. If I want someone to take this, then I do not share the editing view with someone who needs to take the form. I have to actually send them the form to take. I wouldn't want to share this editing view with students, for example, because then that defeats the whole purpose. They're not actually going to be able to take the form. They're going to be able to edit everything that you've established here off to the side. Oh, goodness gracious. Sorry about that, folks. I'm having some mouse issues here. So if I want to collaborate with a fellow teacher, maybe we're working on a unit together. Maybe we're working on an assessment. Maybe I'm working with peers it doesn't matter. Those are called collaborators in a Google form. So if you want someone to help you create this form, you have to add them as collaborators. I don't think there will be many instances, especially if it's an assessment or a quiz in your classroom, for you to add a student as a collaborator. Now, the same thing goes for those of you who are district level admins or you work at other consortia. You don't add someone as a collaborator wanting them to participate in the form. You add someone as a collaborator so that they can help develop the form. So if I click add collaborator, I'm going to add Suzanne to this right here. And same thing that we looked at Google Docs, I want her to be able to change it. That's the only thing that any collaborator can do on this form. So I'm going to add Suzanne. I'm going to actually type in Jake. Let's see, Jake. I'm going to add you to this. I'm going to say change something. Editors will be able to view and delete form responses. That's fine because I trust them. They're not students. They're not people who I want to have take the form. They're actually people that I want to have create the form with me. So I'll hit send. They'll be notified by email, and then they'll be able to make any changes on this form that they deem necessary. Is there a question that I heard? Let me check the chat box real quick.
I don't think there was anything in the chat box.
Karen, I wondered how some forms were so cute. Yeah, some people just have a knack. They're like, like we've got a lot of Martha Stewarts and Joanna Gaines out there who are just making these things like completely beautiful. It's worth it. If you think about it, it's worth it because you're asking someone for their time. And so a little time spent on theming it, getting colors right, can go a long way for someone's perception of the form. Now, of course, if you're collecting data on something serious, you don't want to make it look cartoony, but a beginning of the year getting to know you kind of student survey form where you're asking them about their favorite movies, video games, things like that. That of course is a reason to get playful and to get fun with this. But yeah, you're right there. So a version history, that was a question. There is no way that I know of yet to find the version history of a form. So that's important to know because we spent a lot of time in our doc this morning knowing that you could go to file and go to version history and see changes over time. Unfortunately, that capability is not available here on the Google Forms. So that is important to know about this as well. Now, there's some script editor add-on things here. Remember, I said that there are hot rod add-ons that you can place here as well. Preferences, these would be around kind of just your default settings. Do you always want to collect email addresses from folks whenever you're sending out a form? Maybe you do, because it's a great way to respond to people who have taken a form. And if you're using this as a quiz, do you want to make all questions required? Probably. And do you have a default point value in mind? Is everything worth 5 points? Anytime you create something, is it worth 10 points? But we're going to look at that in a minute. Anything else, though? Any questions? Carolyn asked, Carolyn, the question around how do you get them to show up as a chart? You don't have any control over that. That is, let me go back to an old one. here's my daily reflection tool. You don't have any control. Well, I take that back. Let me correct myself because now I'm thinking. It depends on the type of question that you're asking as to what type of chart or graph you get. So if you ask a date question, like what's today's date, this is the type of chart that you would get. So everything here, what you're seeing is every time I added something to my reflection log, it's showing, well, he added one on the 15th, the 16th, the 17th, the 18th, so forth and so on here. On a question that is on a scale, like I had a scale of how do you feel about today, 1 through 5, you're always going to get a bar graph to report that out because you can only make one selection per form. And so it's going to show you the quantity over time per range. And remember, that was a range question. If I am selecting from a drop-down menu, then it's going to put it into this bar graph form here. So you don't have any control from this view. However, if you go to the spreadsheet view, then you actually could take this and do whatever types of charts and graphs that you wanted to do. So no control over, well, I keep saying that. You have control based on what type of item you're asking, what type of form that question's phrased in. If you'll notice, if I go to my questions here, wrong one. I go to my questions here. This is what I was talking about when I said a linear scale. So from the drop down, I have many different choices as to what type of question I want to ask. And that's going to determine what type of chart and graph I get under the response side. So because I chose a linear scale, I'm going to get a bar graph that's going to report that out. If it's a multiple choice grid or check boxes, I'm going to get those horizontal bar graphs versus the vertical ones, because it's going to actually compile over possible choices, because some people may choose 2, some people may choose 3. Anyway, I could wax poetic about all this, but those are great questions.
Adam, there's a question from Christine.
Okay, I see that. That's a good question. So let's say we've added collaborators and peers. Maybe it's a department of teachers. We've built this form, and now we're ready for people to participate and actually take this form. So what does that look like? Okay. If you click the send button, you're going to get a few different options for how you can notify people or give people the link. So one way is to email them. So let's say I want Suzanne to take this because I really want to see what her answers are. So I could just simply type in her email. And if I want to change the subject or the message, I've invited you to fill out a form. Please don't take it too seriously. Okay. You could add a custom message into that, and then I could click send. Now, what Suzanne's going to get on her side is an email with a link that has the subject and that little message that I've included in it, and she's good to go. If I wanted to, let's just play around. I'm going to go to today's session. Google Forms. This is going to be fun because I think there are people in here who aren't joining us today. But let's say I wanted to grab a bunch of email addresses at once. So I've selected these email addresses, I've highlighted them, I'm going to copy them with Control C, or I could right click and hit the copy, or I could go to edit and copy. So many ways to skin a cat. I could then go to send and paste all those emails in there and click send, and it just sent them to everyone who I just highlighted that was on that spreadsheet. So some of you, you're going to actually get a copy of this form to take. Now, there was another option that said include the form in email. It's grayed out because I don't have anyone's email address in here. It never works anyway. I have seen so many attempts to where, let's say you want to email someone and you want the body of the email to actually be the form itself. I have rarely ever seen it work, mainly because there's lots of spam filters on our emails. Our emails don't display images, which this is a big image correctly. So I advise against clicking the include the form in the email because it just never shows up and operates correctly. It's better to send an email with the link that's embedded in it versus trying to make the form appear in the body of the email itself. Now, you'll notice there's some other options just beyond sending an email directly. There's the link, that's the little chain link. This is going to give you a link that you could put in an email, you could put on a website, whatever it may be. Maybe you have a classroom website where you're collecting feedback from students on your instructional practice, and you have a standing link and a standing form that anyone could go in at any time and fill out. That would be one way of using this link. The link is huge. That's why they have this shorten the URL button to make it a little bit smaller because it is so large. And you can just turn that on or off. Or you can actually, for my more advanced fans, embed the form in a web page itself. So if you had a Google site that you were running, or in Canvas or Google Classroom, especially Canvas, you can actually take this HTML code and embed directly into a page so that when someone loads the page, they don't have to click on a link. Just loading the page automatically brings up the form in and of itself. So those are your few options. And of course, you've got your share via Facebook and share via Twitter options. I don't know. I don't have Facebook, so I don't know who would ever use that. And then, of course, you can choose, do I want to collect email addresses as people respond to this? Questions about that? Comments? Concerns? Very similar, Rhonda. Yeah, very similar. Let me go back to my form here. So we've talked about data validation and how we can expect answers to come back in a certain format. We've talked about how to change the theme. There are a few other things that you can do, and I want to show you. Where's our Tech Tuesday form? I got too many things open here. I'm gonna have to close some of these tabs down. Oh goodness. Here we go. I'm gonna go to the form for this. I don't know if any of you remember one of the greatest joys of reading that I can think of in elementary school was the choose your own adventure stories. I tore every choose your own adventure story up, and I can still remember my most favorite one was about a vampire on a train. And if you remember Choose Your Own Story, you'd be reading a story and then it would give you a question like, if you want to go to the caboose, skip to page 89. If you want to talk to the vampire, go to page 42. And I would read those things up. I just thought that was the greatest thing. Well, there's a little similar ability within Google Form to take someone's answer and trigger them to go somewhere else on the form. Let me stop. You can actually, based on how someone answers, trigger them to go somewhere else on the form. So let me show you what I mean by that. So on my form that you filled out for Tech Tuesday, there was a question that said, select your school district. And I want you to look over here to the right-hand side. That based upon whatever you chose, it was going to send you to a different section of the form. If you chose that you're from Baker County, I wanted you to go to a section of my form that was just devoted to Baker County schools. If you chose Dixie, the same thing. I didn't want Dixie teachers to select information that was really only pertinent to Baker teachers, if that makes sense. And what that means is that, so let's go back to this form. And oh, somebody did change my Michelangelo. You guys are quick and good. So let's say I had a question here. I'm going to drag it. I can drag it. Oh yeah. If you want to move a question around, you'll notice there are these 6 little dots. Those are supposed to be little tactile dots. If you click your mouse and hold the button down and then move it, that's how you can actually move question orders around on the page. So let me, let's say here, what's your favorite ice cream? Okay. And, oh, that's not a question. Here's my question. That was a title. What's your favorite ice cream type? This is a horrible example, but I think you'll get the feel for this. If option 1 is chocolate, option 2 is vanilla, and then for all of you who were into strawberry yoo-hoos back in the day, God bless you, I'll put strawberry there as well. We won't get into all the crazy flavors. Now, based upon your answer, I may want you to go to a different section of the form completely. Let's say, I'm going to show you down here, there under this little hidden menu, this little what was a hamburger menu. I guess now it's a Dippin' Dots menu. You can go to a section based on an answer. If I click that, I get some options here for each individual item. So let's say the strawberry fans, if you click strawberry, it's just automatically going to submit the form. You're done. There's nowhere else to go. If you hit strawberry as your answer, the form is over for you. Okay. But I'm going to add a section for our chocolate and vanilla fans out there. So on my control panel, let me close this out so it's not so busy. On my little control panel right here, I can add a totally different section to this form. So this section says section 2 of 2, and I'm going to make this for chocolate fans. I'm going to create another section. I'm going to have to move this guy around. This is going to be for vanilla fans. Now, once I've created these sections, I can come back here and say, if someone chose chocolate, send them to the chocolate fans. This is the most messed up form I've ever created in my life, by the way. You've got the Renaissance and you've got ice cream questions. If they chose vanilla, then they could go to the vanilla section. And what I could do is just add items underneath here. Why is chocolate the best flavor? I'm not spelling anything right today. And I could make this maybe a long paragraph response because I want them to write something. If they chose vanilla, then they're going to get all of the stuff we already created. So you could make this form go in all different directions if you wanted to, which is the same way that we created the Tech Tuesday form. I created a section that was devoted to Baker, and under the Baker, I had select your school from a drop-down menu. And so I listed all your schools here. And when you got done with that section, I didn't want you to go to the Bradford section. So I said, after they finish selecting their school, then I want them to select the session that they want to be involved in on Tech Tuesdays. I didn't want every person to see every single thing, or it be a long form that took a lot of time to complete. So here, if we preview this form, let's try this. All right, what's your favorite ice cream type? I'm going to select strawberry and click next. Oh, I'm done. Remember, I said if somebody chooses strawberry, they're totally done with the form. And that's exactly what just happened there. Now, if I choose chocolate and click next, it's asking me, why is chocolate the best flavor? Because it just is. Now, if I go back and choose vanilla and click next, then you'll see I get all of the questions that were underneath the vanilla section here. So it's just a way to change up how the form behaves and send people to different parts or different sections of the form based on how they answer. We have a form here that we use in-house. It's our travel form that we use whenever we travel so we can keep up with it. And this form starts off with one question, and based on how you answer this form, it's going to determine, do I send you here or do I send you here as part of the form? So if I say there was no travel, well, then I can complete my form and I'm done. If I say there was travel, I actually have to put in the mileage and when I left and blah, 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 all that stuff. So just another way that you can manipulate your questions. And again, these options are hidden under this dipping dots menu for each item. And even after each section, you can have the form go to a different spot. So you can really make this a choose your own adventure type form. And now I feel like I was about as clear as chocolate. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I have kind of a stupid question. You know how you told us to go back and, check everything and see what it looks like from the participant's point of view? Mm-hmm. When you do that, it shows that like 2 people answered or 3 people answered, like 3 responses. Mm-hmm. How do you get rid of that though then for your data when you actually submit the form to people to fill out?
Great. You're thinking like me now, like, yeah, I wanted to play, but I don't want anybody to see this and I don't want to mess up data or anything else like that. Very good. So if I click on responses, I've taken this 3 times now. So it's showing me 3. There is no way from here, I could, from this little, let me show you that again. from this little hidden menu that's next to the spreadsheet icon, I could click on that and then click on delete all responses. So if I do that, it's actually going to just delete everything that's done. But I want to test something. I want to go to this. Oh, I'm going to create a new spreadsheet for this form. And it's showing you, here are all my time-stamped answers. Every time I hit submit, that's what's here. Now let's try and delete these rows. What I want to know is if I delete my rows and refresh this, now it still says 3. So even though it's not on the spreadsheet, it still contains a record from this view. So I guess what I would need to do is come here and delete all responses. And now I go back to 0. Now I go back to nothing. So it seems like the best way to do that after you've practiced and configured it the way you want it is to come to this menu under responses and delete them that way. If you delete them from the spreadsheet itself, they're still going to exist on through this third view that we've been talking about today. I hope that helps.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what you just did, if I have a quiz based on a form from last year,
Mm-hmm.
is that how I would go in to delete all of those old responses so that I can then use it again if I didn't want to import questions but use it again?
You totally could. That would be one way to do that, or you could go back to that old thing from last year and make a copy of it, because when you make a copy of it, you're going to get a new response bank that's going to start at 0, and you'll have a new spreadsheet that won't have anything on it. So either or, I think you've got some wiggle room to play with whatever you want to do there. And some may want to keep their responses, kind of like how we keep lesson plans for a few years after students leave, just in case. So it may be that you just want to make a copy of your form instead.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. These are great questions. I like all the stuff that's really
Adam, I have a question.
Hmm?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead. Is that Rhonda?
It's me, Rhonda. I was trying to show you my other screen. I don't think I can do that. I don't know if you can see it.
No.
I'm trying to make a exit ticket for math.
Mm-hmm.
How they decompose numbers.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to put ask them, show me your number of bond for decomposing the numbers. Do you know of a place I could go to put a number bond graphic on my exit ticket?
That's
Am I making sense?
Yes, you are making sense to Jake, I'm sure. I don't know if you're making yeah, I think let me go here. You said it was a number bond, right?
Right. They're decomposing numbers, like using a group of 5, which 2 numbers make 9. And I gave them a multiple choice. But if they pick the wrong answer, I want to see how they decomposed the number into a number bond.
Oh, any ideas, Jake?
Well, anything symbolically with math, my instinct on Google Forms, and I've done probably hundreds of them, is just to start with Google, like you did. I just Google search, and if I can find what I'm looking for, I'll just use an image either in the question or in the answer responses. But I think it sounds more like you're asking for a way to collect their work as well as the answer.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. You want to see how they've decomposed those, right? Is that the right word?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, I don't think there's any tools within Google Forms to do that. But if that was something that that I really needed, and it was a virtual environment, either synchronous or asynchronous. I mean, you could have them, you can have them upload photos to a Google form, so you could have them just take a picture. I would imagine nearly every student has access to a smartphone. They could just take a picture of their work, and you could require for certain items that everyone has to upload a picture of their work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Jake brought up a good point. There is a newer option as of this year where you can turn an item into a file upload. And this is where someone can actually upload a document, a picture, a movie, something that they've created up as part of this form. And then it collects itself in your drive. And let's say you put, I love the idea of using this as an exit ticket, by the way. Number one, I think it's fast. If the kids have Chromebooks in your class, even better, because then you've got this nice longitudinal picture of their thinking and learning, and it's all organized. So let's say you have a folder for exit tickets, and within there, maybe you have quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. If you ask students to upload evidence of their work, then it will collect it in those folders where you have your form, wherever your form lives, just to keep it nice and organized. And you can go back and look at their movies, their PDFs, whatever they've uploaded. You can look at that. Now, we are really beneficial in education that we have unlimited Google for Ed storage space, because you can actually allow uploads that are quite large. Now, if it's a movie, if students have recorded themselves practicing, like they're doing some phonics work, or they're practicing prosody or something like that in an ELA classroom, maybe they do have a large video file off their laptop or tablet that may be a gigabyte. So you may have to set the upload limit higher or lower. But if you're doing this with your church from your personal email account, or like the Lions or the Elks Club, it's going to eat into your personal space, just as a reminder, if you're using your personal Google account. But yeah, that capability is there to upload a file as part of a form. Let me go back here and look at the questions. Carolyn, your question, if you use the spreadsheet to create a chart or graph, it's going to live in the spreadsheet itself. So it'll live there, no problem. You could do that. Can questions be read to students? If they have a screen reader that's a part of the machine, then yes. I think all of machines that are being bought for schools and classroom use have a screen reader in there. So that has to be turned on. That's not going to be anything specific with the Google form itself, but overall for the machine itself that they're using to do this with. Some teachers have recorded themselves and embedded that as a video that's a part of the form. Remember, I showed you could embed a YouTube video. So they're recording themselves either reading a passage to the students, and it's creating a scaffold within the Google form. Those students who need the stimulus read to them, well, they have the teacher reading it through the form itself. And students who don't need that scaffold, they can read the passage themselves if it's an image or typed out in text, and move on. So that would be another way that you could incorporate that in here as well. Now, I want to show you, since we're talking about quizzes, under settings, how to turn what we made into an actual quiz. So there are 3 columns of settings that are available, and I just clicked on our little gear here. That's our main settings for any Google form is going to be right there. So I could select to collect email addresses. Do I want to give them a response receipt? Maybe. I can let them request it, or I can always give them a response receipt. This isn't a bad idea. Again, if students have school emails, they're on Chromebooks, you want them to have evidence of their work, you could send it to them. Although, if it's first period and you're emailing them and they can see what they got wrong and what they got right, that may affect what happens in third, fourth, fifth, sixth period by the time word spreads around. Do you want to limit them to one response? If it's a quiz, then yes. I don't want them to be able to take this multiple times unless I've given them feedback, I've re-instructed, I've retaught her this lesson in class. I don't want them to be able to edit this after they submit, so I'm going to leave that unchecked. And do I want them to see a summary of charts and text responses? If it's a quiz, probably not. That's kind of like, remember, well, I don't know if this is still a part of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, where you could poll the audience and the audience would vote A, B, C, or D. That may be a way for students to see, oh, 90% of the class chose C, I chose B, C must have been the right answer. You may not want to be able to do that. Now, someone had a question about shuffling the order of questions. That is available here under the presentation setting, where you can shuffle the question order. So if you have students in like a computer lab setting, or if it's tight in your classroom, and you don't want them looking over their shoulder to the next person, you can actually shuffle the question order. And that's another good reason to create different sections of your form, so that no one is really going to be seeing the same thing at once.
Adam, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Okay, somebody had mentioned about reading the test, and I wasn't sure if they were referring to, like in a whole group setting, could the teacher read the questions one by one for the students, which you could do that for science, math, and social studies, I would believe. But could you have like a real-time answers, like you could see correctly? For example, if you had 10 students, you wanted to make sure all 10 of them answered the question on question one, could I have it on my smart board where I would see the survey results right away, and then I could say, okay, we can go on to the next question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, you can do that. Now, you could also use something like Nearpod, or any other program where you control what slides people see or what they see in time. But yeah, that's a not a bad idea to, on your teacher machine, to maybe have the spreadsheet up and you can see as they've responded or as the responses come through, okay, now we can move on to the next thing because everyone has answered this. That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Thank you.
And last but not least under the settings menu is to actually turn this guy into a quiz. There's this one little slider button right here that turns this into a quiz. That means that all of these items, you're going to have to go and tell this form which is the correct response and how many points is this worth. Also, you got to think about this. How do you want to release the grades? Because it's going to grade this, especially if you have multiple choice, true, false, those things, not long paragraph or short answers. It won't automatically grade that. You're going to have to look at that. And you have to choose, after a student submits, do I want them to get their scores automatically? Or do I want to be the one to control, okay, now I'm going to email out and everyone can see their work and see what they've missed. Generally, most people choose the second option, that after they've had a chance to go through and look at student work and look at the grades, then they want to be able to email out all the responses. And if you notice, this turns on the email collection because it's going to need to know what email to send this to at a later time. So that's going to force the form to actually collect emails from people.
Adam, there's a question about using multiple sections. Can the questions in more than one section be marked required?
Yes. Yep. You can have different required questions across different sections of your form. Or you can make everything required. I think we looked at that setting earlier too. And then what do you want respondents to be able to see? Do you want them to see what they missed? Do you want them to see what the correct answers were? And do you also want them to see the point values? So those are kind of going to be personal to your practice and your needs in the classroom if you are going to be using this as an assessment tool. But if you want students to go back and think about their work or maybe do a little extra project or maybe go back and correct their mistakes, maybe you do want them to be able to see what they missed. So I'm going to make this, I'm going to save this. We're going to go down to our Renaissance question here. And I'm going to click here. And notice when I've clicked here now, there is a button for answer key. So I'm going to click that. Of course, everything disappears. And now up at the top, I can set the point value for this item. So I can just type it in, or I can use the little up and down arrows. Maybe this is a 20-point item as part of this quiz. And now it's telling me I got to choose the correct answer or answers. So obviously it's Da Vinci. I'm going to choose that. Notice it's now green. And remember, students aren't going to see this. This is the creator editing view right here. And then I can click done. And now I'm setting up my answer key, essentially is what we're doing right here. But, and Jake is the one who taught me about this, you could add answer feedback. So what does that mean? That means if a student selected the wrong answer, you could send them to a YouTube video, you could provide them with a document, something that's going to help reteach the content from the lesson and give them some feedback. So notice on the incorrect answers, I could enter in feedback like, let's try that again. Please watch the video. And then I could choose a YouTube video on Da Vinci. Here we go, a Great Minds video, perfect. And when I click save, that means when I release these student responses, any student who responded incorrectly to this item, they're going to get feedback from me as well as a video to watch. Or it could be a link to something. Notice there's a little link down here. I could say, let's link them to this article on the Renaissance. Let's go back. So link them to there and say, please read this before you attempt the quiz again. I can click add. So now, instead of just, oh, you got the wrong answer, that's it, and we don't have enough time to go over this content again in class because we're off our pacing guide, when you push these answers back out to the students or you give them the results, if they made an incorrect choice, they're going to get a link to a website with some text, and they're also going to get a video on Da Vinci to watch. And it's just my attempt at giving them some feedback. Now, I could even give them feedback for correct answers. You rock. You got this correct, and I am proud of you. And if I save this, that's going to be what they see when they look at the results of this assessment. So I can actually give praise, I could actually give some constructive feedback and some resources for this one item right here. And that's why it's so important to create good stuff that you can use year to year. Just we talked about making a copy of this year to year, or just modifying slightly year to year. But also why it's good to collaborate with other teachers who are either teaching the same subject, the same students, because you can get your ducks in a row here. So this item is totally set up. I've set up the correct answer, I've selected the point value, and I've even given feedback for incorrect responses and correct responses.
Adam, you have quite a few questions. Barbara Davis wanted to know if students upload a file as required by the form, will their files be kept in a folder where the form resides in her drive?
Yes, the answer is yes to that.
Okay, will the uploaded files be seen within their responses, or will they be named the kid's email?
Say that again, Suzanne. I want to think about this.
Her follow-up question is, how is each upload identified? So I think that's really what her question is. She's nodding her head, yes.
Yeah, I think it's identified with the, I want to say when they first did it, it was the email address that was associated with whoever was taking the assessment, but maybe we should try this out. So I do have, okay. All right, let's try this out. Oh, of course I made it required. Okay, let's add a file. See if I got a picture on my computer here. Let's add this. Oh, here we got a picture of so great. Okay. I'm going to click upload. And then chocolate's awesome. Next. Oh, now I have to, now I've doomed myself from how I've set this up. I got to answer everything 20 billion times. Da Vinci painted this. Submit. Oh, has to be a me. Has to be a me chocolate. I've made that validation request. Okay, submit. Okay, now we'll go to my drive.
There it is.
Yep, here is the picture that I uploaded.
And it's your
I'm going to go to the response form. Notice on the response form, this is what I uploaded. It's actually giving me a link, a direct link right there. And I know it's this person because it's me. And so I could click on this and it's going to take me in my drive to wherever this is. But I want to look in my folder because did I save this? Okay, so here's where the folder that I created this form in. Here's the file responses. And that question, notice it does have my name.
That's
So
great.
it does have my name. That's the name that I put in that was associated with the form. So it's all contained here. Remember to just keep your folders organized and you'll be good to go. That's a cool thing.
That is cool. The next question, Anjana asks, can you talk about embedding video to read questions within the form? So I know that she has profound students, and so maybe what she's asking is to have questions read aloud.
Yeah.
So that they can respond to them that way.
I think you would have to record yourself reading that, and then you would have to upload that to YouTube And you can make your videos private on YouTube. So like no one can do a YouTube search and find Adam Azula reading question 1, but it would be a lot of work. I'm not going to lie, especially if you're reading each individual question, because you would record yourself and then have to save it to YouTube and then have to link it to each item on the form. So it could be done, but again, I would defer to, is there a screen reader that would do this for you on their device?
Okay, the last question that's on there, she said thanks, by the way. The last question, Terry Miller asked, are you able to assign specific questions to certain students?
No, there's no way to say like, yeah, there's no way for me to say, well, I want Suzanne to answer questions 1 through 3 on section 1, and I want Jake to answer 4 through 6 on section 2. That capability hasn't been embedded here yet. It's all or nothing as far as when you assign this out.
Okay, thank you. I think you've answered them.
Thank you. These are great questions, and we're running out of time, so I'm going to open it up. Are there any other questions that anyone has? I know we've kind of hit the wall here. Any other questions that you guys have that we can look at and play with real quick while we're in here? I would be more than happy to answer.
Hi, Mir.
Did we answer everything? I think we did.
I think so. If we didn't answer your question, will you unmute? At one point my screen froze and then I got about 12 messages or 12 texts right in a row. So if I missed your question, I'm sorry, just unmute and ask it.
I just have a quick question about when we have to turn in something that we've done. Do we just create a form and send it to you or something to show that we're going to use it?
Yeah. Actually, you're asking a really good question. So for our follow-up from this Tech Tuesday, if you've attended 3 or more of these sessions, we're actually going to send you a Google form. And the Google form is going to be no more than 8 items, I would imagine, that we need. A lot of it's just going to be your name and your email all over again. But this is a great question. We're going to ask for you to give us some type of evidence from one of these things that you're actually planning to use it or you're using it. So let's say you created a Google form. You could take a screenshot of that and upload it as part of what we send you, and that would be credit. If you were using Edgy, we did Edgy a few weeks ago, if you were using YouTube, all we really need is like a screen grab or some type of document. Maybe it is a spreadsheet. Maybe it is a form that you're uploading to us. Anything like that. But we do not want you to spend hours on this. We do not even want you to spend more than an hour. We just want you to play in one of the areas that we're covering for Tech Tuesdays and just send us a snapshot or tell us what you did. It's going to be real straightforward, real simple, and we'll be sending that form out soon. Now that we've done a few weeks of these.
Adam, Christine Auger wanted to stay on for a few minutes after she had a question that she just wanted to clarify, but not for the good of the group, really.
Okay, great. Yep, just one image from any of the 3 sessions. You know, we're not going to ask for evidence. Like, let's say you attended the writing, the Edgy, and the YouTube. We don't expect 3 different pieces of evidence. Just one from those 3 is going to be good for us. All right. Well, with that being said, thank you guys. Thank you, Mr. Matta. Good to see you again. If you want to stay and ask any further questions, please stay. But everybody else, have a really good afternoon. Be safe out there. And enjoy your time. So thank you so much. I appreciate you all so much for joining us and hanging in there. Some of you have given 4 hours today, and I could not be any prouder or happier, and we'll sing your praises from the mountaintops. So next time I see your superintendents, I have some names to let them know, some good names this time. So thank you all so much. Have a great afternoon, and we'll take a minute right here if anyone needs to hang around and ask anything else. Please feel free to do so.
Christine's question, Adam, was how to make your phone or your accessible file on your phone. Oh, I think she was going back to maybe the forms. Jake had mentioned that you could save the form as a desktop or an icon on your phone.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. Yeah, let me.
Christine, is that what you were talking about?
I think I do remember that question. I'm going to pull it up on my.
She said yes. She said yes. Okay, go ahead, Jake, or Adam, whoever.
Adam, you were pulling it up, so if you've got it ready, go ahead.
Actually, Jake, you're an iPhone user, so if you want to show from an iPhone experience, then I can show the Android one next.
Okay. I don't know if I'm going to try to show my phone here. Maybe this will get the lighting.
Oh, Karen said that she's an Android, so we might need to see it one on each.
There we go. Hopefully y'all can see that. I think it's showing up pretty well. So some things that you use pretty frequently. I know we talked about like things for guidance reports or maybe student behavior forms. One that we have here that
can you hold on, Jake? Can you hold on just a second? Adam, will you stop sharing your screen so Jake will show up bigger?
There we go.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, no, I can't see my screen. Where's my screen? I hope y'all can still see my phone. But some things that we use pretty frequently are nice to get quick access to. Like pre-COVID, we in our roles we travel a lot, and we have a form we fill out when we travel. And so I have this little button on my phone here. I hope you can see that. I can't see my own screen, but when I click on it, it's just going to take me straight into Safari, into the form, and I can fill it out so that I don't have to navigate. And this isn't really just a trick with forms. It's a trick with any URL or website that you have. And all you have to do, if you go into Safari, so this has already taken me into Safari. At the bottom of the screen, there's a little box with an arrow, like where you would share that link, like through a text or an email or something. And if you scroll down a little further, one of the options that you'll get is add to home screen. And when you click that, it's just going to add this page to your home screen like an app. And then you put it, however you would organize an apps for something that you could have quick access to, so that every time I need that form, I don't have to dig through an email or dig through, wherever that might be saved on my phone. I can just click right on my home screen and it takes me straight to it. I think there's a similar option for Android. And if there is, I'm sure Adam's going to show us.
Yeah, no, it's actually almost the exact same thing. And I know that this may not translate well, but this is the form. I opened it from an email in my on my Android device, and it sent me to Chrome. And so I could take it here, but I want to save it to my home screen. If you click the settings menu that's in the upper right-hand corner on your mobile browser, there's a button, there's a link down here, add to home screen. And it's the same thing as what Jake just said. If I click add to home screen, I can rename it, but now it actually, I can actually move that guy around. It's like a little app button. So I could put it on a page by itself. I don't know if that's coming through very, very clear here, but then all I have to do is click it and it's going to open it up automatically. So for anything that you need to do fast, again, all I did was you have to have it open first. The first time you have to have the form open, click on the settings, 3 dots, add to home screen, and then just move the icon around in whatever folder. I have everything in folders on my Android. I think Jake did too on his iPhone. but then you get an icon, and then you can just move that guy around wherever you want to, and there you go.
She said she was thinking about generating a log whenever a student was out of her class, instead of writing a log each time. I think that's brilliant.
That is brilliant. If you, yeah, that's because
And-
then what a nice running record you would get of like, oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, your kid leaves every day. He told me he had a bladder problem. He doesn't have a bladder problem. Okay, well, yeah, you could create that running list of just data. Even if you had a dedicated teacher machine or a tablet that would serve as a hall pass, not that they would take it with them in the hall, but they had to fill it out every time they left. That's a great use of that too.
Karen asked, does the form have to be in an email? And no, you can go to directly to your forms and do the same thing as long as you're on your phone.
Yeah, I just had it in an email because I had sent it to myself. But there's also a Google app for both Android and iPhones for forms. There's also one for Drive, Slides, all those things. You could open it from there as well and add a shortcut to the home screen. Yep. And yeah, for a BIP, no doubt. That's a really, really good idea because we all have this on us. And if we can just click a button and it's just a couple questions on a form or just buttons, click, 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 hit save, that makes us so more efficient. And that's pretty innovative as far as I'm concerned. If I was an admin too, I would consider that an innovative use of technology.
Oh, Karen said she's dumb. What is a BIP? No, in the world of education, you're never dumb if you don't know an acronym because it's impossible to keep up with them. It's a behavioral individual plan or something of that sort. It's about behavior.
Behavior intervention.
Intervention. Thank you.
Thank you. You're not dumb at all.
See, I didn't know either, and I've written BIPs.
All right. Any other questions, guys, before we sign off for the day?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Have a good afternoon, everybody. We'll see you later. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. We all appreciate it so much. Have a good day.